Ladies and gentlemen, we got them. Young Turks, TYT. Young Turks, TYT. Young Turks, TYT. 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 Young Turks, TYT. Young Turks, TYT. Young Turks, TYT. 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 Young Turks, TYT. Rebel headquarters.
Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur. JR producing, Jesus directing. Got a big show for you guys. Three things I really want to hit this hour. One is Barack Obama's new health care proposal, and the big question is what's in it. It was released today. And then the Obama Justice Department and the absolute... All right, I'm going to try to tone it down a little bit, but I was going to go over the top there. I brought it back for a second. They let the criminals go, and that in itself, if you ask me, is a crime. And we will talk about that, what some of Bush's attorneys thought he was allowed to do, including massacring civilians, and they don't get punished for it at all. So that's a little bit later in the program. And in just a second here, I'm going to start in on a massive development on Rahm Emanuel, the chief of staff for Barack Obama. But first, two pieces of news for you guys that are just happened today. One was very recent. Dick Cheney's been hospitalized. He apparently had chest pains. He's had 4 heart attacks before, and he has a pacemaker as well. I hope to God he's all right. The last thing I want to see is if something, God forbid, something were to happen to Dick Cheney. All of Washington and how quickly they would turn him into the biggest hero in America. Oh, the great Dick Cheney who tried to protect us. And then you couldn't say a bad word about Dick Cheney and all the torture he pushed for and all that stuff, because how dare you desecrate the legendary Dick Cheney's name. No, I want him to stay around, and I want him to see his ideas defeated. So everybody root for Dick Cheney to get better. Apparently he's all right now. He's at a hospital at the George Washington University Hospital in the U.S. Capitol, and he's, quote, resting comfortably. Now, speaking of Republicans in the hospital, Bob Dole also hospitalized today. And he went to Walter Reed Medical Center. And this has got a lot of irony in it, I have to be honest. Because Bob Dole is not a guy who's in favor of, let's see, the public option, for example. And he went to Walter Reed. Walter Reed is a public hospital. That's kind of weird. His working for a consultant company that is secret. Well, not secretly. It's public. That's why we know it. They don't often talk about it, obviously. Bob Dole doesn't. Tom Daschle doesn't, who also works for the same company. Working for a company that represents health insurance companies. And what they've been pushing for is, they claim they're for reform. Dole says that. Daschle says it. But they are dead set against the public option. They don't want government-run health care at all, unless, of course, it saves their lives, in which case they're very happy about it. So Walter Reed, of course, run by the government. It's an Army hospital, in a lot of ways top of the line. So when Bob Dole, a very established, respected member of our, formerly of our government, etc., gets, and a veteran, of course, when he has any kind of trouble, he immediately rushes to the government hospital. And this is the reason I'm telling you this is because he literally, after he had pneumonia apparently and surgery on his knee, the minute he got better, he grabbed the phone and started working for Alston & Bird again, and started making calls trying to kill the public option. Now, look, let me be fair, let me be more clear. I don't know what the calls were about. Okay, I know the calls were for Alston & Bird. That's reported. I don't know if it was specifically about healthcare reform or the public option, but that company is against the public option and has always been, and they've used Bob Dole to that effect. So government-run healthcare is awesome for Bob Dole, but it sucks for you guys. He doesn't want you to have it. God forbid you should get the same kind of treatment he does. Okay, I don't know if I'm supposed to be making those arguments at a time that he's in the hospital, but you know what? Other people are in the hospital, and Bob Dole doesn't mind taking away their health care at all. So maybe he should think a couple of times about that while he's in the hospital bed. And of course, we want him to get better too. Yes, yeah.
I just wonder. I mean, we don't want to advocate this. I haven't heard of anyone praying for the death of Dick Cheney and Bob Dole. And if they were, you know it would hit the fan. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point. I see where you're going with that. Because, you know, we got these crazy Christian right guys who are praying for the death of Obama and everybody else. And that's fine. That's not a big deal. Oh, if somebody were to whisper of that in regards to Cheney or Dole, first of all, they'd be dead wrong, and they shouldn't do that. But the roof would collapse in. And it wouldn't be about them. That's the thing because the thing is, have people mentioned that there's that crazy pastor that's praying for everybody's death, etc., let alone Pat Robertson, let alone the entire Christian right movement praying for everybody's death through Armageddon, okay? But whenever it happens on the conservative side, oh, that guy's a lunatic. Shush, who cares? Cover that up. It's a fringe player. Who cares, right? But if they find any anonymous blogger who left, or not even a blogger, but a guy who leaves comments on a blog on Daily Kos or something else, oh, well, of course, yes, obviously. All the liberals are praying for that. Look, there was a good article about Mitt Romney over the weekend. I even tweeted it out. And it was Ron Fournier of the Associated Press, so it surprised me. He's done some articles that I thought were questionable on Democrats, especially against Obama during the campaign. But fair is fair. He did a very good factual piece on Romney and explained how Romney, in his speech at CPAC, was not, stating things that were factual, right? And he would say, like, not one job has been created, and then Fournier would quote the top economists in the country who all agreed that X number of jobs have been created, and he went down a good list, right? And so I was happy with it, and you should check it out on our Twitter account and read the article for yourself. But of course, he couldn't help himself. At the end, he had to throw in a little dig. So Mitt Romney's lying about everything he said in his speech, and we got the facts to prove it, but he's got to be, quote-unquote, even-handed. So at the end of the article, he mentions an anonymous, I don't remember if it was a comment or a blog on Daily Kos, not from one of the main bloggers on Daily Kos, not from Marcos Melitsas himself, but some random anonymous dude, right? But on the other hand, this blogger said something that wasn't exactly right either, about how Dick Cheney's an admitted war criminal, which, you could have a debate about, right? He says, well, technically, he didn't admit it. He didn't admit a crime, and technically, he hasn't been convicted of being a war criminal. Why did you put that at the end of the Mitt Romney article? Okay? Because at the end, you always have to say, well, it's all even. An anonymous blogger on the left and a presidential candidate on the right, and let's call it even. Okay? Again, overall, I like the article. It was a rare case where they said, they're not really telling you the truth. But they can't help themselves, and they got to characterize all the liberals as that one guy they found on Daily Kos. We got quoted in the Washington Post, the Young Turks did. We didn't, you did, actually. Some guy on our website, okay? So, hey, look, the Washington Post is reading our website, theyoungturks.com. I'm not saying anything. And I think the guy they quoted was a conservative on our website. And they're like, well, and then the liberal website says this, the Young Turks says this. Who said it? Okay, I didn't say it, right? So it's part of the nonsense evening out that they try to do, because you can't just criticize Republican. And, JR, I'm worried about that, too. Because right now, the Fox News producers are scouring every liberal website, okay, to find any little thing. Oh, yeah, you see that? VX21 Blue Sky left a comment saying that he doesn't like Dick Cheney. They're rooting for his death. Look at all the liberals. Okay, we certainly are not, for among the reasons that I stated. Okay, so now, speaking of mainstream journalism, the Washington Post over the weekend had an interesting article by Dana Milbank. It did two things. One, it buried an enormous hatchet in the back of Valerie Jarrett, David Axelrod, and Robert Gibbs, the inside advisors to the president. The second thing it did was, well, let's put it this way. It stroked Rahm Emanuel feverishly, okay? And when I read it, I was blown away by it, because it seemed like it was such a hatchet job on those insiders, and so obviously, brazenly, in favor of Rahm Emanuel with inside information. Gee, I wonder how Dana Milbank got that inside information. That I thought, is Rahm Emanuel in trouble here? Because this is an act of desperation. To put out in the press, oh, I was right about everything. And if Obama had just listened to me, and I'll give you the quotes so you'll be able to tell for yourself. So ironically, at the end of this article stroking Rahm Emanuel, I thought, man, he might be on his way out. Because this is nearly political suicide to put this in the papers, because how's he going to work with all these guys that are inside Obama's inner circle when he just put 18 daggers in their back? Now, of course, Dana Milbank says, "Oh, Rahm Emanuel. Who's Rahm Emanuel? I don't know him. Oh, him leaking this stuff to me? No. I didn't consult with him on this article at all. No, I don't know what you're talking about." Okay, so let's go through the article and you make up your own mind. Okay. He explains how Rahm Emanuel's in a bit of trouble. There's people coming after him, etc. But he says, but sacking Emanuel is the last thing the president should do. Obama's first year fell apart in large part because he didn't follow his chief of staff's advice on crucial matters. Arguably, Emanuel is the only person keeping Obama from becoming Jimmy Carter. Okay. Now, if I'm Obama reading this, I'm thinking, really? Oh, I'm so dependent on Rahm Emanuel. Things are going to fall apart, and I'm going to be Jimmy Carter if it isn't for the legendary Rahm Emanuel. Now, I wouldn't take kindly to that. That's why this smells like desperation to me. Now, by the way, Jimmy Carter put out a note about another article that compared him to, in Foreign Policy magazine, that compared him to Obama and said, "Oh, Obama's going to be like Jimmy Carter in a week." He's like, "Oh, I'm right here, man. My policies were perfectly fine, and let me defend him to you. What is this insult? Oh, you're like Jimmy Carter." But that's a separate note. So then Dana Milbank continues. Where the president is airy and idealistic, Rahm is earthy and calculating. So the president's an airhead. But Rahm Emanuel knows what's going on. Rahm, you think this is going to help you with the White House? Uh-oh, man.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Almost. Let's continue. Milbank says the president would have been better off heeding Emanuel's counsel. Of course. Okay. But apparently the real problem with Obama is that he didn't listen to Emanuel enough. So now, what are the genius ideas that Emanuel came up with that Milbank thinks were so smart and should have been listened to? One, Emanuel counseled against closing Guantanamo Bay in a year. He argued for the right-wing position, and said keep Guantanamo Bay open indefinitely. Who would have guessed? I thought we were wrong and that Rahm Emanuel was secretly fighting for progressive positions. Apparently not. Emanuel also fought fiercely, this is a quote, fiercely against Attorney General Eric Holder's plan to send Khalid Sheikh Mohammed to New York for a trial. Again, Rahm Emanuel on the right-wing side. Who could have figured? He didn't want a civil trial for the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. He wanted to do a military tribunal just like the right-wingers. He cautioned for buckling to the Republicans. I would have never figured that. And then here comes health care. Look at this quote from Milbank. Obama's greatest mistake was failing to listen to Emanuel on health care. Well, of course it was. Early on, Emanuel argued for a smaller bill with popular items such as expanding health coverage for children and young adults that could win some Republican support. He opposed the public option as a needless distraction. Now, what did we tell you all along on this show? We said Rahm Emanuel hates the public option and has been arguing against it from day one. And then people say, "Oh, how do you know? You don't know that. Rahm Emanuel's a genius, and he's actually trying to figure out progressive policy positions and get them passed." Jacob, what would your little mind understand about the great genius of Rahm Emanuel? My ass. Of course he was arguing for the right-wing position. And the public option is enormously popular throughout the country. And because Obama weakened the bills by listening to Rahm Emanuel, the bill is now terribly unpopular in the country. There's a new poll out today in 10 key states throughout the country. How does the public option rank against the current bill? The current bill is in the 30s in all of those states, swing states. The public option is in the 60s in all those states, and sometimes higher, okay? So the public option, which Rahm Emanuel fought against, incredibly popular, the current bill that Rahm Emanuel was so happy with, no, he says, no. Rahm Emanuel's genius idea was we should have watered it down more, so it'd be even more unpopular. Okay, now that leads to the second question, which is, wait a minute now. I thought Dana Milbank didn't talk to Rahm Emanuel. How did he find out all these inside details of what happened inside the White House and which side Rahm Emanuel was on? Oh, that's kind of curious, isn't it, Dana? What happened? How'd you find out? How do you know? Wait a minute, now you put this in the Washington Post, and you put your name on it. So you're saying it's absolutely true. How did you find out? Can I guess? I'm going to guess that Rahm Emanuel's your source. Of course! So this is Rahm Emanuel telling Dana Milbank, go tell everybody I was right and those other three were wrong, and that Obama is an airy guy who can't figure things out without me. Genius politics, Rahm. You keep that going. That's the kind of politics that lost us Massachusetts, Virginia, New Jersey, etc. Now, I'm not done yet. Milbank says the president disregarded that strategy and sided with Capitol Hill liberals who hope to ram a larger, less popular bill through Congress with Democratic votes only. The result, as the world now knows, disastrous. The reason it's disastrous is because you didn't put any of the popular items in it. You watered it down because of Rahm Emanuel's idiotic policy suggestions, which you just told us and confirmed to us, in fact, were his suggestions. He then goes on to bury the hatchet in everybody else's back. Calls Valerie Jarrett's role a conspicuous failure. And then he says, oh, she brought in Desiree Rogers, who let the Salahis into the White House dinner, and that was a fiasco. That was all Jarrett's fault. And then here comes another devastating quote. Then there's Gibbs. It's hard to make the case that you're a post-partisan president when your on-camera spokesman is a hyper-partisan former campaign flag. You think attacking Gibbs and Jarrett like that is going to curry you favor with the White House, with Obama? That's a terrible strategy, as usual, from Rahm Emanuel, who has littered the White House with terrible strategy. Now it affects his own career. By the way, Gibbs is too tough on people? Rahm Emanuel's brilliant idea is, let's water down Gibbs so he's even softer, so that he doesn't hit Republicans, that he hits the Republicans even less than he already does. The guy never makes the case. Gibbs is too tough. Emanuel wants him to be softer. God, they're stupid. They're not just wrong, they're dumb if they think this. This is going to help your career, Rahm? Man, by the time I finish this article, you're already going to be fired. Here he comes against now, continuing, attacking others. No wonder Emanuel has set up his own small press operation and outreach function to circumvent the dysfunctional ones that Jarrett and Gibbs run. Obama needs an old Washington hand to replace Jarrett and somebody with gravitas on the podium to step in for Gibbs. Your best friend, Dana Milbank, writing this article obviously to help you, with inside information from you, is saying you should fire Gibbs and Jarrett? Oh, you're dumber than I thought. But you're not done yet. Now he's going to go after Axelrod. In hiring Emanuel, Obama avoided the mistakes of his Democratic precedent. In between this, he goes after Axelrod, and obviously Axelrod should be fired as well. Okay. Then he concludes by saying, in hiring Emanuel, Obama avoided the mistakes of his Democratic predecessors, who first gave the chief of staff job to besotted loyalists. Now in trouble, Obama needs fewer acolytes and more action. Rahm should stay. Well, good luck with that, because after this article, he's almost certainly gone. Hey, Dana, if you thought you were a genius trying to help out your man, and you didn't do it with Rahm's permission, man, did you screw up. But given the insider information you have from Rahm Emanuel, and you've always had from Rahm Emanuel, it's an excellent assumption that, in fact, you guys put this thing together. You two geniuses came up with this. And as soon as Obama reads this, he's left with almost no choice. What's he going to do, fire everyone else and keep the genius Rahm Emanuel, who's gotten none of his policies through? Remember, oh, he knows how to work the House and he knows how to work Congress. None of the policies through and nothing but electoral defeats. He's going to keep that one guy? Well, good luck with that strategy. Because go have at it, Hoss. I don't think it's going to work out for you. So now I wrote about this over the weekend, and people say, oh, Cenk, you're jumping to conclusions. Well, I love that. All right, let's see what happens. You know me, I like to make predictions. I believe in my political analysis. So what's great about it is I'm on the record, and we'll find out. You know what? I'll one-up it. Rahm Emanuel is gone in 2 months. It could be 2 days. It could be 2 weeks. But he's gone by 2 months. Okay, that's pretty bold, right? Because people say, oh, he might leave by the end of Obama's first term. Don't make me play Ed Reed for you. Hell no. He ain't going to stay around until the end of the first term. He's goner, man. Okay, now, if I'm wrong, okay, you'll say, hey, Cenk, you didn't know what was happening. If I'm right, I want every one of those people, everywhere it is, whether you're liberals or conservatives, to say, damn it to hell, this guy knows what the hell he's talking about. Okay, this is a terrible idea by Rahm Emanuel and Dana Milbank, and it will backfire.
I'm not in the prediction business, but where do you get that Obama's going to do anything?
And now that's a fair point. Finally, a fair point. Okay, because a lot of people on the internet saying, "Oh, Jake, you don't know. Rahm Emanuel's got to figure it out. Whatever. The inside sources are wrong." It's 100 different stupid defenses, right? JR is onto something. Okay, the one part where I might be wrong, and this whole thing might fall apart, is Obama reads this and goes, "Oh, wow, that's terrible. I can't believe he leaked this." Because remember, Obama's supposed to hate leaks, right? And I can't believe that he, attacked everybody else in the administration. Obama's supposed to hate that, right? And then you can go, "Oh, okay, what am I going to do? What's next?" Because, I mean, it's not like Obama has been the paragon of strength lately, right? So maybe he crumbles to this. I don't know. But, man, if he crumbles to this, it's going to be a long, long 4 years. And that's about it, by the way. It ain't going to be 8 years. Well, let's see what happens. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. Now, I'm going to get to John Yoo and the torture memos in a second, because that's a very interesting story. But I want to actually go back to Rahm Emanuel for a second here to clarify a couple of things. In case, just to be absolutely clear, why does that article mean that Rahm Emanuel might be on his way out? Because you only have your best friend in the papers and in the Washington press establishment write an article like that if you've already lost and you're on your way out and you want to take a pot shot and say, "Oh, yeah, if he had just listened to me, everything would have been great, but he didn't listen to me and he listened to the other three, and it's all their fault, it's all their fault." Or the only other possibility is you're desperate and you're throwing a Hail Mary pass. Maybe Obama reads it and goes, "Oh, my God, Rahm is right. If I just listened to him, everything would be great. Let me fire the other guys and just keep Rahm Emanuel." Good luck with that strategy. I don't think it's going to work. But it's hard to work with those same people after you have an article like that written by, obviously, the one guy you're leaking all your stuff to. Okay? So that's why I think he's desperate. That's why I think he's on his way out. And you wouldn't do this unless you've already lost. So then I like what my dad said during the break. He's like, "Well, knowing Obama, he'll have them come in and hug it out. He'll be like, 'Okay, Rahm. Okay, Gibbsy. Come on, hug it out, hug it out. Everything's going to be all right. Let's go back to being a team. Everything's great.'" Now, and Rahm today realizes what a disastrous article this is. And he sent more guys leaking to backpedal from this. And Politico has they quoted me too, it's not a big deal, but he quoted one of his top aides as saying, he's just not that effing dumb. Well, first of all, I would argue to the contrary. I think he is. Okay, and I think he's proven himself to be. But that quote goes to show you, they think, "Oh boy, this article really hurt." And he wouldn't be so effing dumb as to have put this article out there by himself. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the case, but at least he knows it hurt him. Okay. And the last thing I want to do with that is I wanted to share those public option polls that I alluded to in the last segment. In Nevada, 34% support the Senate bill in its currently watered-down Rahmian version. 56% support the public option. Illinois, 37% support the bill, 68% support the public option. You'd be in a sense a theme here that maybe the current bill without the public option, not so popular. If they put the public option in, it might be more popular, unlike what Rahm Emanuel has been advising the president. In Washington, the state, of course, 38% support the bill, 65% support the public option. Missouri, 33% for the bill, 57% for the public option. Virginia, 36% for the bill, 61% for the public option. Iowa, 35% for the bill, 62% for the public option. Minnesota, 35% for the bill, 62% for the public option. Colorado, 32% for the bill, 58% for the public option. Hey, Rahm, you said to take the public option out. You political genius. Is it possible, given these numbers, that the public option would have made the bill more popular, not less? All right, well, I'll let the political geniuses in Washington figure that out for themselves. I don't know, maybe they have trouble with numbers. Okay, now, let me go to, we were saying in the last segment that Obama is sometimes caves in. Sometimes. We're being charitable. Speaking of a gigantic cave-in, the Office of Professional Responsibility in the Justice Department is tasked with the job of figuring out who is, following the laws within the Justice Department, who's following the Constitution, et cetera, et cetera. They're the ones that keep an eye out to make sure the Justice Department is actually following the law, right? So they had an investigation of the infamous torture memos during the Bush administration, mainly written by Jay Bybee and John Yoo. And they wanted to see if the people who wrote these memos were following internal Justice Department guidelines and were following the law itself, right? And they came to a conclusion that they had not, that they had done professional misconduct. They basically, in order to appease the policy people over at the White House, namely Dick Cheney, his top lawyer, David Addington, et cetera, wrote opinions that now the Office of Professional Responsibility think were not justified by the law at all. So that they should be brought up, not in a criminal trial, but brought to the bar to have them explain how in the world did you come up with these opinions inside the Justice Department saying it was okay to torture when it seems so absolutely and clearly against the laws of this country. And to give you a sense of how egregious John Yoo was, the Office of Professional Responsibility, in the middle of the investigation, invited him in to ask him questions, and he came in and answered them. And they asked him, hey, let me ask you a wild hypothetical. Quote, what about ordering a village of resistance to be massacred? Is that a power that the president could legally have? Now, they're asking this because John Yoo wrote memos saying the president has the power to do anything, anything. He can torture people, he can ignore Congress's laws. As long as we're in a time of war, and we are always at war with terrorism, the president is above the law, basically. Now, that's unjustifiable in our system, according to our laws and according to our Constitution. That's why they think this is professional misconduct. But they're giving him an opportunity here. Could the president order a massacring of civilians? Here's John Yoo's answer. Yeah. Although, let me say this, so certainly that would fall within the commander-in-chief's power over tactical decisions. Not unclear. Yes, it falls within his tactical decision power-making. If he'd like to massacre civilians, perfectly capable of doing that, and that would be perfectly legal. And the investigator is shocked. He can't believe it. He asks, to order a village of civilians to be exterminated? Yoo's answer, sure. He didn't stutter. So, now this is obviously against the law. It's not even taking U.S. law into consideration at all. It's just John Yoo's opinion that, yeah, the president can do any damn thing he likes. He can murder anyone he likes. It's crazy, right? So, why am I angry at the Obama administration? Well, they sent in a hack, what in the terms of the Washington media, they call him a career veteran. His name is David Margolis. He takes the conclusions of the Office of Professional Responsibility that said this was professional misconduct on Yoo and Bybee's part, and he changes it. Did he do his own separate investigation? Did he interview Yoo? Did he go through all the things that they did? Nope. He's a political hack brought in to wash things over. So he takes that and goes, no, it's not professional misconduct. I, in my infinite wisdom, have decided that it does not rise to that level. It's just simply something we disagree with. Well, that's just a matter of disagreement then, isn't it? So they will not be brought before the bar. There will be no investigation. No crimes were committed, even though they did all this investigation and said that this was misconduct, throw that in the garbage because they brought in a politician or a guy who will do whatever a politician says, and in this case, Obama, to say, we're going to look forward, we're not going to look backward. The Justice Department's job is not to look at crimes of the past, which is, of course, nonsense. That's exactly what the Justice Department is supposed to do. They look at crimes that happened. They're not supposed to look into the future, what crimes might possibly happen. No, you look at the crimes that did happen and prosecute them. So they are free to go. No one will suffer any consequences for the torture that was ordered, for the ridiculous, outrageous, so-called legal memorandum that were written to justify it. And John Yoo will continue to be a law professor. A law professor. This man, you know, he's at Berkeley. You'd have to be crazy to send your kids to Berkeley. Berkeley should, law school should, no one should go to Berkeley Law School, while this, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the Office of Professional Responsibility before Margolis, the hatchet man, was sent in, is a criminal. And that guy's teaching your kids? You're going to pay money to get taught by John Yoo? Hell no. Hell no, man. Everybody at Berkeley should be up in arms. Okay? They should protest until that guy is fired. They shouldn't go to a single class at Berkeley until he's fired. We know what the real report said, not what Obama's guy changed it to. So now, and Bybee's a sitting federal judge. And knowing the Republicans, once you get a Republican president back in, he'll be promoted again. Who knows? Maybe the Supreme Court's in his future. All right, probably won't happen. Okay? But he's got a great job sitting on the federal bench. Now, why am I so bad at the Obama administration? I mean, for the reasons that I explained, obviously. But look, here's the critical part. It's one thing for somebody to break the law. It's another thing for someone to sanction it. Sanctioning it is almost worse. Because, look, you'll always have criminals. You'll always have people pushing the boundaries, in this case, of our democracy. To say, oh, no, the president is above the law. The president can break the law. The president could order torture. The president could order murder. And none of it matters. You'll always have those guys. But if you don't punish them, or if you don't at least say, hey, this is misconduct, this was legally wrong, then you say it's okay, it's sanctioned. And the next time a Republican comes in office, or maybe a Democrat, they're going to turn back and say, well, it was a matter of disagreement. It's not really illegal. It's not really misconduct. It's just a matter of disagreement. So now we go back to torturing and killing. And that is more dangerous than anything else. Obama here, with honestly, in my opinion, his cowardice in not pursuing what the real Justice Department findings were, in burying them, has set a terrible and grave precedent. Torture is no longer illegal. It's just a matter of opinion. And it's hard to do more damage to the country than by setting that precedent. Young Turks. All right, back on the Young Turks. I am your host, Cenk Uygur. Before I get to Obama's healthcare proposal, one other note on the memos that are now being released about what the CIA did and the authorized torture, et cetera. The CIA had claimed, and Dick Cheney had always bragged about, hey, we tortured Zubaydah. I'm sorry, they used enhanced interrogation tactics on Zubaydah and waterboarded him, et cetera, et cetera. And it produced great results. Ha! He talked because we tortured him. He talked about this guy named Binyam Mohammed, who was planning to do a dirty bomb in Washington, D.C., and Jose Padilla, also doing a dirty bomb. Now, you might remember Jose Padilla is a famous case, and it turned out he wasn't doing a dirty bomb at all, and eventually they charged him on something else entirely, once associating with someone else on some other plot not related to the United States. But they convicted him on that, and he's in jail now. But the dirty bomb stuff was nonsense. Binyam Mohammed, you might not know about, the charges against him were completely dropped. Are bad. Turns out he hadn't done anything wrong, okay? In fact, he's now pursuing a case against the United States because he had been tortured himself, okay? So we did all this torture, and what do we get at the end? Not a damn thing. Well, here's the interesting twist to that, though, right? And now we're finding this out through the CIA memos that are being released. They said, well, we got Padilla. Remember, he was convicted on something, right? We got him because of what Zubaydah said. Here's the only problem. The enhanced interrogation techniques were authorized in 2003 on Zubaydah. We got Padilla in 2002. So how does that work? So there are only two possibilities. One, you were totally lying about how you got Padilla. Or, worse yet, you tortured Zubaydah before it was, quote-unquote, authorized. Because what they're hanging their hat on now is, oh, we got you and Bybee and a couple of guys we like in the Justice Department to write us memos saying that torture is perfectly legal. Really? Now, you admit that it would be illegal to do it without those memos, right? So, when did you torture Zubaydah? That's another excellent question that will not be pursued by the weak-ass Obama administration. They will sweep that under the rug too. Shush, 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 shush. No, saying that Republicans broke the law and tortured people. No. That'll make the Democrats more unpopular. On what theory? I don't know. No, it's okay. They just exercised, in the words of Margolis the hack, poor judgment. All right, let's get onto the health care bill. So last week we were excited. A bunch of senators are coming on board, and some senators that are not widely known as progressives, that are Democrats in the Senate, saying, oh, you know what, public option, I'm on board, I want Harry Reid to push for it. We got up to 20 senators from the whole political spectrum saying, yes, public option, it makes sense. Schumer says, hey, look, it looks to be a political winner. Everybody seems to be in favor of this public option thing. Why aren't we pushing for it? Very logical, so people get excited, right? And then Harry Reid came out and said at the end of the week, okay, if people want it, I'll put it in there. If the Obama White House wants it, it's in. If the senators want it, it's in. And people are also encouraged by that. Now, we noticed that there were a lot of ifs in that sentence, right? He didn't say he was going to put it in. He just said if, right? But one of the big ifs was, how about the Obama White House? And when the Obama White House was asked about it, they're like, oh, well, if Reid puts it in, sure, yeah, we'd be thrilled with that. You know, the president's always been in favor of the public option. So, well, here's where the rubber meets the road. Obama releases plan today. And guess what's not in it? I hope you're sitting. Shockingly enough, the public option is not in it. Who could have figured that? JR told you not to get excited. Of course it's not in it. Okay. When they asked the White House, Gibbs is like, you know what Gibbs says? Oh, the president really wanted to put it in there. Really? Who was stopping him? Who's above the president? Who's twisting the president's arm? Really? Is there somebody I don't know? Obama's like, I'm only the president of the United States of America. I can't really put it in. And you got all these Democratic senators saying, please put it in, right? They're lying to you. They're liars. The Obama White House is lying to you. They never, ever wanted the public option, and they fought against it all the way. And we know from Dana Milbank's article over the weekend that the main guy pushing against the public option, and who apparently has won this battle, is Rahm Emanuel, the genius, who thinks public option, which is so unbelievably popular throughout the country, is not the right way to go. Instead, this weak-ass, watered-down version, which is grossly unpopular throughout the country, is the way to go. Way to keep listening to Rahm Emanuel. So Gibbs says, the president is perfectly willing to put it in there if the Senate Democrats insist on it. Wow, that's a ringing endorsement. It's a joke, man. It's an absolute joke. Why? And they cut the deal, man. They cut the deal with the special interests. They cut the deal with the corporate lobbyists. They told them, whether it was the drug companies, the medical manufacturers, they brought them into the White House too, the hospitals, the doctors, and most importantly, the health insurance companies. They cut the deal saying, they promised all of them, I know you're all afraid of the public option because you're raping the system now. We pay 3 times as much as the Japanese do, and we live 6 years less, okay? And all that extra profit goes right into all these companies. I know you guys are making a killing doing this, literally a killing, right? People are dying all over the country because they don't have health insurance, or they're not covered, or they thought they were covered, but then they got denied coverage. I know you're making a killing doing this. So I don't want to rock the boat. I'm genteel Barack Obama. I just want a tiny little bit of pocket change. Can I get some pocket change? So I know you're all against the public option. So I promise you, cross my heart, hope to not get reelected, that I will never fight for the public option, and I will do my best to kill it. And again, Obama has delivered. Now their excuse is, oh, I don't know if we have the votes in the Senate. Well, why don't you try being a leader and find out if you do or you don't? And it seems like you actually do. You might, right? But that's not the point, because he does. It's not that he's not being a leader. He is leading. He's leading against it. He doesn't want it, right? And then their second complaint is, well, you don't understand those mean Republicans. If we put the public option in there, they're going to say it's a government takeover of health care. Huh, interesting. Because John Boehner just put out a statement on Obama's weak version of health care. The one that has no public option, no Medicare buy-in, no government takeover, no government option at all, right? Here's Boehner's statement. The president has crippled the credibility of this week's summit by proposing the same massive government takeover of health care based on a partisan bill the American people have already rejected. Well, you look at that. He charged you of a massive government takeover anyway. Huh. Who could have seen that coming? It doesn't matter what you put in the bill. He's going to say you're taking the government, doing a government takeover anyway, because Frank Luntz, his pollster, told him that those words scare the American people, and that's what he should use. Let me continue with Boehner's statement, see if it gets any more reasonable. This new Democrats-only backroom deal doubles down on the same failed approach that will drive up premiums, destroy jobs, raise taxes, and slash Medicare benefits. All those concessions to the Republicans. Does it look like you won them over? They still say it's going to destroy jobs and kill Medicare, et cetera, et cetera. And just in case it wasn't clear enough, here's his last sentence. Boehner says, this week's summit clearly has all the makings of a Democratic infomercial for continuing on a partisan course that relies on more backroom deals and parliamentary tricks to circumvent the will of the American people and jam through, say it with me, a massive government takeover of health care. In case you didn't get it the first time, he said. Huh. Turns out you can't appease the Republicans. Turns out you can take out every piece of the legislation that might help the American people or offer them an option that is not based on private insurance, which is killing us. And it turns out the Republicans say you're going to do a government takeover anyway. Now, people can't be that stupid. Obama can't be stupid enough to think that Boehner wasn't going to say this, that the Republican response wasn't going to be this. He's not stupid enough to think that, oh, my God, if I don't do any leadership at all, this public option might magically appear on its own. No, he doesn't want it. He agrees with the Republicans. He agrees with the conservative Democrats. The agreement is, and this is why the American people are so mad. Another poll came out from CNN saying overwhelming majorities of the American people think the government is broken. Why is it broken? Because both sides agree, let's make sure we hose the people. And it's a competition of who can take the lobbyist money the best way. Is it the Republicans who say to the lobbyists, we'll do whatever you want, or is it the Democrats who are a little craftier and who say, oh, we'd love to help a brother out. Oh, we'd love to help you. We'd love to give you the public option. The Republicans twisted my arm. No, okay. No public option, sorry. Lobbyists, come on. That was good. That was good. Money, 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 money. What's the motivation? It's the money, Lebowski. Rahm Emanuel told Barack Obama, we're going to get more Democrats elected to Congress if we take more lobbyist money than the Republicans do. You don't understand those conservative Democrats in those swing districts. They need the money. The votes don't matter. Only money matters. Money buys votes. That's the way this system is built. He told that to Obama, and don't blame Rahm Emanuel. There'll always be a Rahm Emanuel. There'll always be an advisor like that. You have to blame Obama. Obama's the one that said, Rahm, you're a genius. You figured it out. Where do I sign on the dotted line? Who do you want me to make a deal with? Insurance companies, deal. Drug companies, deal, 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 deal. And then he turns around and goes, gee, why did we lose in Massachusetts? Gee, why don't the American people trust us anymore? Gee, what happened to change? You tell me, Barack, what happened to change? And you wonder why we're disappointed. Now, look, I'm so disgruntled with the rest of it that, I mean, you want me to tell you the rest of the proposals? He split the baby. He split the difference between the House version and the Senate version. And so, you know, the Senate version was incredibly weak to begin with. The House version was a little better, but since there's no public option in that was in the original House version, then the rest of it is honestly fairly meaningless to me. You know, they took out the Cornhusker kickback. Of course they were going to do that. Even Nelson was embarrassed of it. Now, he has some more subsidies, great. They're going to kind of close the donut hole, except they're not. And the drug companies were supposed to pay for closing of that donut hole. And are you going to be surprised to find out it turns out the drug companies are not going to pay for that, of course. They are going to do the excise tax, but it's going to kick in for even larger policies, not for smaller policies. Do you want me to keep boring you with the details? It's weak sauce. And Republicans are crying murder that it's incredibly strong takeover of government health care. Change you can believe in. Gotta love that pocket change. Young Turks.
So take me